Okay, this is a quick demonstration of the Reclassify tool, in particular applied not to a value raster with numeric, like slope, but with a land cover or, in some cases, land fire data sets where we have a categorical value instead of a ranked numeric value. So the reclassify could be used in a slope case to say isolate all the slopes greater than 40 degrees or something like that. And then you could create a binary output or just get rid of all of the lower slopes that you might not be interested in by assigning that class to no data. But it's trickier to do it with a categorical data set, and that's why I figured I'd just go ahead and demonstrate this. So if you look at the attribute table for something like land cover, rasters we know have a pixel that stores a value, and there's just one pixel value per raster. Hang on, I've got this all messed up now. Okay, so but what we really want to look at is the value. So this is the pixel value for the raster, but it's not ranked numeric, it's categorical. So a value of 2 for a raster is a code for Rocky Mountain, Alpine, Bedrock, and Scree. Now this is a land cover data set, it's not land fire, but you will have something similar to this where you have a value associated with each one that's kind of a legend or a key for some kind of land cover. So the tricky thing is you have to sit down almost with paper and pencil, and you need to figure out which ones are your forest and which ones are your not forest, if that's what you're interested in. Or let's say we wanted to preserve all of the grasslands, something like that. You need to sit down and write down what each one of these is. And if you know that this whole group is gonna, you aren't interested in any of these, then you could say 44 through 67 is a class, and that's no data. But if 70 needs to be preserved, Rocky Mountain, Subalpine, Mesic Meadow, then 70 needs to remain 70, but maybe 71, Southern Rocky Mountain, Montane, through Intermountain Basins, maybe you don't need any of these. So 70 through 79 could be a class, and it could be reassigned no data. Maybe you want to keep the Greasewoods flat, so then you would maintain 82, maybe you maintain 85. Do you see what I'm saying? So make that list and make sure you're clear on which ones of these you need to preserve first. Excuse me. Then we're going to run the Reclassify tool. And I use the Spatial Analyst tool. Hopefully Arc will cooperate. Okay. So the input raster is going to be the land cover or land fire, and it automatically goes to the value field. It knows that it needs to pull that. So it's automatically going to try and classify it for you in some way, and it's usually applying Jenks classification. You could go in to the classify window if you knew what you wanted to do, especially with a ranked numeric, and you could do your own thing in here, but this isn't going to help you if you're dealing with categorical data. You're going to have to add entries and delete entries and make sense of this to set up a bunch of classes to equal what you want to see happen in the attribute table. So let's just say that we wrote down that 2 through 14, that just happens to be just fine, but we don't want to keep those. We want those to be no data. This has to be written just like this, capitals with no space. We want class 15 to remain class 15, but then you have to keep track. If there isn't a 16, you have to be looking at the attribute table, so you might want to either print it, have it open in another window, whatever it is, but you need to have it handy here so that you know what you're doing. If you're going to type in your own categories, like let's say 16 through 49, there has to be a space before and after the dash. So 16 space dash space 49. Now this one isn't necessary anymore, so I can click here and delete entry. And so I'm just going to proceed like that. You could just choose to delete the whole thing, and then add your own entries and build as you go. So, you know, class 2, you want to remain class 2. Add an entry, you know, whatever it is. you, again, go off your notes, drop it in there, and then, as usual, you're going to just create a new output raster. So you're not actually changing the Landfire data, you're going to create a new output for yourself. That should work. No data makes all of those cells, like non-forest, go away. So what you end up with is a spotty raster that you can see through that's kind of like a polygon more. What usually happens then is you can run the raster to polygon tool and convert those areas to polygons so they're a little bit easier to symbolize. You can calculate areas. If you want to do overlays that are geoprocessing based, vector type overlays, you could use that in those kinds of tools so that you're not dealing with rasters. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have questions.